Hey everybody, a video today on Christopher Columbus. I usually talk about very ancient history, but I have made a few videos regarding this period of time around the time of Columbus. I have talked about the Sinclairs of Rosslyn Chapel, the Knights Templar, and Piri Reis, to name a few. And the thing I find most interesting about Columbus is he is in some way connected to all these people or groups in one way or the other. Now, this first thing I'm going to read from is a critical review done by Vincenzo Piazza regarding the work of historian Rogero Marino. And I'm just going to read. It says, in his text, Rogero Marino invites us to rethink the image that has been transmitted to future generations regarding Christopher Columbus. In these books, his tenacious anti-conformist historical research pushes us beyond any pre-existing boundary, giving to us a passionate narrative that vanquishes, one by one, all those myths that have been constructed regarding the Genoese admiral. Starting with the great lie, the one that still today is present in all history books, by which he arrives in the New World by error in his attempt to circumnavigate the world and reach the extreme Orient, which at any rate would have remained the goal of his successive explorations. It says nothing is more false. It says Columbus moves on the basis of ancient maps with the heart and stamina of a missionary, of a soldier of Christ, with the same temperance that characterized the monastic orders of the High Middle Ages, in particular the most mysterious one, that of the Knights Templar. And it says, weren't the Knights reaching the New World as early as the 1230s from a secret port in France and inundating the European market with silver? And this just goes over how kind of history kind of regards Columbus as being funded by Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, I believe. And this goes over how he was actually funded by Pope Innocent VIII out of Rome. And was he actually trying to claim territory for Spain, or was it for the Church of Rome? And I'm just going to leave these links below so you can read this for yourself if you want to look into this further. But this is how Rogero Marino opens both texts, and he does this with the following paragraph. And he has a couple different works, I guess. It says this: Christopher Columbus discovered America on October 12, 1492, the day the world changed and the modern era began. Columbus, a mariner of humble birth, is believed to be from Genoa, Italy, and had left Palos, Spain on August 3 of that same year. After years of persistence, Columbus had finally managed to convince the King and Queen of Spain, Ferdinand and Isabella, to support his undertaking. On the first voyage, he sailed with 3 caravels, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, and crossed the Atlantic in a little more than 2 months. On his return in January 1493, the Pope, a Spaniard, Alexander VI, placed the New World under Spanish sovereignty. Columbus made 3 more voyages to the Americas. He died in 1506 without ever truly knowing where he landed, convinced that this territory was part of Asia. The name America was given to the New World in homage to the expedition of the Florentine Amerigo Vespucci. Marino then continues, this story has been passed down for more than 500 years, but the story has been corrupted. What we have today is the biggest lie of all times, and now the time has come to set the record straight, to upturn it like an hourglass, the instrument that the navigators used to measure time. And a little further on in this article, and this goes over how, Columbus, it seems to me that he had some Templar ancient maps, and the Templars, remember, I talked about this in an earlier upload, they marched into Constantinople, and that seemed to be a place of where a lot of ancient knowledge was kept, just like the library in Alexandria. It seems like after the library in Alexandria was sacked, a lot of this knowledge went to Constantinople, Turkey. And when the Knights Templar and the Crusaders cruised into there in 1204, it seems to me they got their hands on these maps, and Columbus is connected with some Knights Templars. His father-in-law was a knight. He was a sailor in some groups that may have come down from the Knights Templar, and it seems to me that this is where Columbus got his hands on these ancient maps. And I find it interesting that I'm going to jump down a little farther in this article here, but this is some of Columbus's documentation here. And if you look here, and this is kind of unique, I believe, Columbus is using the hooked X, the same one that is found on the Kensington runestone that was found in Minnesota a couple hundred years earlier, and I believe that is in some ways connected to the Knights Templar or groups that were associated with them. So I find that extremely interesting that a couple hundred years later, Columbus is using that same hooked X. So I'm going to jump to another website here. But I find Columbus's use of that hooked X very interesting, same one that's on the Kensington runestone that I believe was put in there by descendants of the Knights Templar. And Columbus is using that same hooked X about 100 years later. And some have even said that Christopher Columbus is related to Henry Sinclair, and I've looked into this, many people's different writings on this subject, and it seems this is the case, that Christopher Columbus's wife's family, through a couple marriages, is related to the family of John Drummond, who married Prince Henry Sinclair's granddaughter. So that is the connection there. It's kind of related through a couple different steps, but it's not too unrealistic to think that stories could have been passed through these families. But anyway, I wanted to share this site here. This is called Christopher Columbus, the Last Templar, and this is a book that speculates that Columbus might have even been the son of Pope Innocent VIII, and I will leave this link below. But it says here, it just goes into briefly that it says the Pope had so many unacknowledged children, so many nieces and nephews, and it says what became of them. And it says nephew was a term that was written as nepos, and Columbus is referred to as nepos in a couple old writings. And this book just speculates that Columbus might have actually been the son of Pope Innocent VIII, and he was the one that actually gave a large bit of funding for his expedition, not the King and Queen of Spain. And on the last page here it says, Marino illuminates the spiritual and cultural significance and esoteric roots of the discovery of America by Christopher Columbus. With the scholar's intellectual discipline, a poet's eye for creativity, and a detective's passion for meaning, his extensive historical research and lyrical writing style bring the Renaissance to life. And it says, was Columbus a Templar? According to the historical documents and maps revealed by Ruggiero Marino, Columbus shared the Templar dream of Christians, Muslims, and Jews living in peace in a New Jerusalem, and his voyage across the Atlantic was both to find a new passage to Asia and to find the place where the New Jerusalem could be built. And it says, Marino draws parallels between Marco Polo's journeys east over the Silk Road and Columbus's sea voyages, and reveals that Columbus studied ancient texts and maps from the Vatican Library, access to which was granted by Pope Innocent VIII, whom Marino shows to be Columbus's true father. Innocent VIII, whose own father was Jewish and grandmother was Muslim, was the perfect individual to further the Templars' plan to create a universal religion combining the spiritual wisdom of the three faiths. Marino shows that Innocent's disappearance and the history that Columbus merely stumbled onto the New World were part of a calculated political and theological cover-up. While King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella are heralded with funding Columbus's discovery of America, it was Innocent VIII who was the main sponsor and mastermind of the expedition. And it says, to obscure the purpose of the voyage and give Spain the credit for the New World discovery, Ferdinand and his agent, Pope Alexander VI, initiated the disinformation campaign that has lasted for over 500 years. Now, one follow-up thing to the Pope Innocent VIII being associated with Columbus and maybe being his father, according to one author. But this is very interesting, and this has to do with the inscription on Pope Innocent VIII's tomb. And it's in St. Peter's Basilica. and it reads this. It reads, Novi orbis suevo invente gloria, meaning that during his pontificate, the glory of the discovery of the New World took place. Pope Innocent VIII died at the end of July of 1492 before Columbus even set sail. So why was this inscription on his tomb? And this is just a common thing here with discoverers, and they just kept the knowledge of the New World hidden. And I believe many people knew of the New World, of America, and they just didn't want to give up the big secret. But that all kind of changed on May 29th, 1453, and this was a defining date in world history because access to the east was blocked by the Turks. So enterprising Venetians opened up the New World by seeking a western route to the Orient. And this is just in a very important time because people could no longer travel eastward because this the Bosphorus was blocked, and that is, I believe, where the Aegean flows into the Black Sea, and just trade routes were blocked. So people thought, hey, we're just going to have to go west, and people knew eventually the New World was going to be discovered and people were going to start claiming it. So this is why a few decades later, I believe the story of Christopher Columbus was put into place. And here is the famous Piri Reis Map, and this is from Graham Hancock's book, Fingerprints of the Gods. This is just a little preview. I will leave the link below. He goes over the Piri Reis Map very well, and he shows how Piri Reis gives credit to ancient sources and to Christopher Columbus himself. So I believe over time here, I believe we can put together, we can trace where these maps went and who acquired them and where they ended up. I believe they started in ancient Egypt. They could have been maps from ancient Atlantis. Some of these land features depict the world before sea levels rose, and that was 10 or 12,000 years ago. I believe they were stored in the Library of Alexandria. When Alexander the Great came in and the library was burned, I believe they were taken to Constantinople, Turkey. In 1204, the Knights Templar went in there during the Crusades. And this is where the Templars acquired some of their knowledge and historical artifacts. These maps were of great importance. We have people associated with the Knights Templar, such as the Sinclairs, taking voyages to North America. We have the Kensington Runestone being inscribed and placed in the middle of America at this time with the same hooked X that Columbus uses. I don't think that can be ignored. But we have the Templars taking these maps from Constantinople, and this is where Columbus, I believe, got his knowledge. His father-in-law was a descendant of the Knights. He was a sailor. It even says in the historical records that Columbus drew up these maps from his own personal sources. And then this famous Piri Reis Map, he even gives credit to Christopher Columbus. And I believe all these ancient cultures, the Phoenicians, the Egyptians, everybody knew about the New World. It was a big secret, but once the route to the east got closed, they knew the gig was up, and it was just a matter of time before the West, the New World, was found and claimed. Columbus has a weird association with the Pope. I find that whole story rather interesting. I will leave all these links below. This whole story is weird, but Columbus seems to be associated with the Sinclairs, the Templars, Piri Reis, and the only thing I know for sure is the story of Columbus being the first one to discover America is a load of crap. Hope you thought this was interesting. Have a nice day.